Okay, hello, welcome back to another game of chess. Today I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to play Scandinavian defense here. Usually I've been playing the Sicilian recently. I've also been known to play knight to f6, Alekhine's defense, but I'm thinking of switching up my repertoire a little bit, and the Scandinavian definitely feels pretty exciting. So I'm going to play knight to f6 here instead of taking straight away, just because I don't want to allow an immediate knight to c3. Our opponent seems to be prepared with some bishop b5 line. Now immediately I'm very unfamiliar with the theory here, because I literally have never played the Scandinavian. Sometimes I transpose into it from an Alekhine's defense line. There's a Scandinavian variation of that, as I'm sure you can imagine seeing this knight on f6 here, but I've very rarely actually played the opening itself. So bishop b5, I'd imagine bishop d7 is almost certainly at least a very decent move. They take, okay. I think, do we take with the queen or the knight? Now, I could take with the knight and play knight b6. I'm thinking if I take with the knight and they play c4 to reinforce the pawn, which could be what they're going for actually, trading off the light square bishops to then build up on the light squares, would make a lot of sense as a game plan. Knight b6, b3, could go for some kind of a5, a4 at some point maybe. Because generally the idea when people play c4 is, I believe, to play c6, such that after takes, you know, you gambit the pawn for a bit of activity. I think we will take with the queen. They've pre-moved c4 in fact, so I think I was right. In the fact that that was their game plan. And I'm happy with my decision to take with the queen, because now after pawn to c6, they're going to take and we can recapture with the knight, developing it in that very natural way. Down one pawn, but both knights developed, a queen in a very pleasant spot. The ability to outrageously castle queenside straight away, which I'm sure would be quite ill-advised given my lack of a c pawn. But at the same time, it does prevent you playing d4. You know what else prevents you playing d4 though? e5, which also allows me to develop my bishop. Okay, we're going to start with e5. I think e5 is definitely necessary at some point. It's probably the more mature move than just castling straight away. I am very tempted though by the idea of castling here. I mean, opposite side castling, how you can't really get more of an attacking position than that. Although immediately e4 seems at the very least tempting. I mean, okay, you could play rook e1 and then I castle, and then you're going to have to move the knight somewhere. It can't come to either of these two squares, so it maybe has to become sidelined somehow. I actually really like e4. I'm going to go for it straight away. Are you going to move the knight? Are you going to play rook e1? If you play rook e1, I will castle. I'm going to crack open this bottle of, I don't exactly know what, some mysterious Chinese beverage. I assume this is Mandarin. If it's a language that employs similar radicals, I do apologize. But if someone could tell me what this is in the comments, it's iced tea of some sort. But you know, okay, sorry. What am I doing? We're gonna crack this nevertheless, and then I mean sample this while just castling queenside, because I mean, who the hell cares? That is, oh. That is so nice. Please, someone in the comments that can read that, tell me what that means. Anyway, they come off here with the knight, attacking the pawn. Now, they also keep a little pressure on here, so I was thinking about the move queen f5, attacking the knight, defending the pawn again. And if you push the pawn to defend this, we've always got en passant, then it's a pass pawn defended by a rook. That feels excellent. But queen f5, there's knight takes f7, probably. Then bishop c5, maybe? We just go for, like, mate here. Oh, I'm very tempted by that. I am very tempted by that indeed. And we just don't care about the loss of a rook. We just go full, all-out tempo here. Is blundering a fork intentionally a great idea? Some would say no. Others, like myself, bishop c5. Let's say queen e2 there, and then like knight here, and we can play rook f8. I actually really like this. We're playing queen f5. Fork me here if you dare. Fork me here if you dare. I'm sure objectively this is very questionable, but we seem to get an intense amount of pressure on f2, starting, of course, with... oh, wait a second. I didn't even think about that. Just knight here straight away. We threaten this. We also threaten the knight. Although, knight here, if you take, and I play queen takes and you go here, do I actually have a follow-up? I'm not entirely sure I do. So knight here takes knight here. I kind of think we need the bishop here. I'm going to play bishop c5. I want to stick with the outrageous development, leaving my opponent's queenside basically entirely untouched. And this pawn here, yeah, they come across to defend this. Okay, but now we have knight g4. Hit this, hit this, hit this. And hit this now, but importantly at this point, if they take my rook, I can take here with tempo on the queen, and we've got this threat of a discovered check. It's about this bishop being so beautifully placed. What? Are you serious? I go here? You maybe lift the queen or something? Where'd you put the queen? Do I just recapture the knight? Okay, so currently I'm down 7 points of material. Now, I'm going to be able to win back 3 of those, but gorgeous development and a huge problem on f2. I think actually provides plentiful counterplay here. Knight f2 seems pretty forcing, because I mean, you do have to move your queen. Where you move it to, okay, of course, if you go here, there's a discovered check. Hit this, we threaten the queen, but then also our queen's going to be hanging in the end. That's the only problem. So maybe this isn't as forcing as we'd like, and after queen e2, if we then take here, maybe there's a rook takes, bishop takes, queen takes, king takes. All of a sudden, I'm just left down a bishop or something. So I'm thinking, actually, given the slowness of all the pieces over here, the fact that they just can't come over to help defend this kingside, I might just take this straight away. Now, opponent's got 2 pawns and a rook for a knight, but how are you going to defend this? You've got one piece that can do it in one move, but then I can play rook f8, and I feel like the problem is still there. We also maybe have a move like knight d4. Have another sip of this beverage. Shout out to this company. Okay, so this is exactly the kind of chess I want to be playing. Now, I'm not sure if this was able to materialize as a result of particularly playing the Scandinavian, although it kind of seems like it. At least playing this c6, getting the initial lead in development. I mean, I don't know, I'm sure I've done a lot of very dubious things in this game, but I'm also pretty sure that my opponent is now sinking a bunch of time into thinking because they are very worried about this. I'm not entirely sure whether taking here was actually a great idea. The engine might shout at me and say you should have taken here. Now, an idea that my opponent probably should have is to try to sacrifice a pawn to just slow me down here, or just to open their bishop up, really. The fact that this d-pawn is currently unmoved is generally what's to blame for their lack of queenside mobility in terms of the pieces here. Like, I'm down a rook and 2 pawns, but if you look at developed pieces, I mean, home square, home square, home square, home square. It's not exactly like this rook. I mean, the rook came to the e-file and then had to retreat. Okay, what have they played? A3. They have gone for some kind of inane prophylaxis. No. That is rubbish. That does not make any sense. I know you're trying to go for b4 here. That's not fast enough at all. I'm sure the engine will say a move like d4 is most appropriate here. Now, rook f8? Do we just build more pressure? Or do we cash in here, queen e2, then play rook f8? I feel like it's just going to be a move order thing, honestly, because this bishop is going to be just so beautiful. Right, I think it is most in the spirit of the game to play rook f8 here, just to keep mounting the pressure, instead of trying to dissolve it into any kind of tactical denouement just yet. I think it is in the spirit of the game to mount this pressure. They threaten my bishop, but here I threaten the queen. Let's say queen e2. Then we have a double check. The king goes to h1 and we go check here. And checkmate with the rook, no? I guess if you take my bishop and I take here, you take my queen, I take here. Is that material equality somehow? Because that would suck. I guess it might be. Is that their plan? Or maybe this wasn't so dumb after all. I could play bishop d4 though. I could just be a little patient. Hold on, here, if you take my bishop and I take your queen, you take my queen, I take your rook. So I've got a rook for a bishop there, which is not what I want to do. This bishop is worth so much more. This bishop is worth its weight in gold. Okay, I can't get rid of this bishop. I'm going to put it on d4 instead. Tempo on the rook, which is awesome. If you want to play rook a2, be my guest. Or you play knight c3, of course, defending the rook like that. But now, it is surely the moment to play knight f2, finally cashing in on all the pressure here, just as my opponent tries to get their queenside mobilized. I mean, think about it. This is, what, 11 points of material that just wasn't moved until right now in the game? And I don't know what the hell that is, because give me that queen with a discovered check. Thank you very much. I'm not entirely sure what they could have played. We'll probably see resignation right about now, because that is... Oh. Of course, you go king here, that's going to be checkmate. You go rook here, it's going to be a checkmate. This was just forced mate, of course, that's why they resigned. I mean, bishop b2 clearly made no sense, but to be fair, what did make sense? I think probably, let me just put myself in the mind of my opponent for a second. In fact, we'll go to an analysis board quickly. If I'm in the mind of my opponent here as to why they played bishop b2, it's probably because they were worried about this double check, and they were thinking, for instance, if you play a move like this, the double check is going to force king here, and then there's going to be check here and checkmate with the rook, as I mentioned. So I think what they were trying to do was let the other rook see f1 and sort of connect their major pieces on the back rank here, such that that wouldn't be a problem. Because then, of course, had I gone for this double check here and then taken, of course, the rook in the end would be defending. I imagine that is why my opponent played what they played, but of course there was a horrific blunder. Let's request a computer analysis and see what the engine thinks of that game. Oh, come on. Okay, so one blunder, but it was more of a missed win because it went from -4.8 to -1.9. But that looks like an opening success, and then a very smooth indeed conversion to a meaningful advantage, and then a bit of messing around to actually convert the advantage to a checkmate. Let's go, baby. Let's open the Masters database and go through that game. This single game may have convinced me to play the Scandinavian defense. So I go for d5 here, takes, and then knight f6 is the second most popular move in the Masters database, but the only other reasonable move is the modern variation of the Scandinavian defense. I say the only other reasonable move, there's probably others, but bishop b5 here is actually the second most popular move. Okay, so this is kind of a benefit of actually having no idea about this opening, is that I really was left to work this out on my own. This wasn't prep at all. But bishop e5 played 1,000 times at master level. Clearly d4 is also pretty reasonable. C4 immediately, probably less strong because... Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, c4 immediately, probably less strong because of what it does to the bishop. Anyway, so bishop b5, bishop d7, and then trading that off after queen d7, although actually taking isn't so great supposedly. 20 master games with white only winning 4 of them does not really bode well for this bit of prep. But queen takes d7, move played by every master, so realizing that actually they are going to play c4, I want to be able to play c6 and then take with the knight. That was, I think, a good bit of opening handling there. And then yeah, c6, okay, dc6, knight c6, and all of a sudden, okay, apparently queen c6 was played in 1 master game in 1987. Awesome stuff. Could look at that, but honestly, knight c6, and we're just in a great position. Here, e5 best move, e4 best move, rook here's a blunder because I can just castle, and then, oh my lord, queen f5 best move. Surely that's brilliant. Surely if Lichess could conceive of the idea of a brilliant move, surely that would be it. Blundering the fork because bishop c5, come on. Oh, I played this so well. That was the blunder. Okay, obviously that was the blunder. I should have gone for this. I was a little worried that this wouldn't work for some reason without the rook on f8 because I didn't have that idea of the double check and the mate here. But if queen e2, apparently there was knight to d4 here. So, oh my lord, what? And then if here, is it check? That's so disgusting. King h1, I take here, and then of course there's going to be, oh, that's filthy. So look, if there's a move like this, then knight g3, here and checkmate here. Okay, so I didn't even think about the idea of knight d4 really. I thought we'd have to keep this this bishop open here. But also if they played queen e1 in response to this, then the best move I think was rook to f8 anyway. So effectively I should have cashed in on this and then played rook f8 and not even worried about recapturing the knight. Of course, the slight loss of tempo in recapturing this knight does warrant a blunder here. But again, this is clearly a missed win category of blunder rather than a blunder. So slightly annoying that I wasn't able to realize that this knight actually really didn't matter. That would have been even cooler to allow the fork, allow the take, and then not even care about recapturing. However, after we take, we still are massively winning. They play a3, giving me the advantage straight back. And as I said, d4 was the move. They needed to give this up one of a couple ways just to try and get some of their pieces active. But instead they played a3. I play rook f8 best move. And then bishop here, I could have taken on f2, fair enough. I kind of wanted to take with the knight just so that I had that threat of the discovery. Knight here, and it is mate in 6 after knight f2. Of course I take the queen. The best move, in fact, would have been what? The most resilient move here would have just been to hang the queen, apparently. So we don't need to really worry about calculating that. I mean, I could take and have an extra queen and still be completely winning, of course. And if they try to play a move like h3 to get a bit of luft here, then knight g4 check is going to be disgusting. And if they move the king across, then we're going to have this, and checkmate here with the knight g4 holding h2. And of course, if you block with the rook, we can take with the queen, king here, and then go in with queen f1. I was wondering maybe if there was some dream of a smothered mate, but I don't think so. But anyway, of course our opponent plays bishop b2, not actually a very bad move at all because it only goes from mate in 5 to mate in 3, and then after we take here, they of course resign. What a disgusting game. Queen f5 was most certainly the highlight of that game, realizing that the tempo with bishop c5 and bringing the rook to f8, and just the irreconcilable weakness of f2 and the terrible development on my opponent's queen side was going to allow for a beautiful attack like that. What a lovely game. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments, in fact, if you think I should start playing the Scandinavian against e4, because I'm feeling pretty convinced by at least this first attempt. And when I say the Scandinavian, of course I'm going to lean into the lines with c6 and gambiting upon for some extra activity. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I am back. Also, for those of you who follow my channel closely, first of all, I really appreciate you. Second of all, I have not been very active in September thus far. That is because I've been doing a bit of holidaying just before I go into my 3rd year of university. In fact, you can currently see the setup's a bit weird. I'm at my girlfriend's house in London right now, but I'm going to travel back up to Sheffield literally this evening, actually. But October, November, December, expect a lot of content, a lot of cool stuff, a bunch of streams, a load of videos, etc, etc. But yeah, thank you as always for your continued support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.